Number 10, 1969 Pontiac GTO Judge Ram Air 4. Nobody named a car the Judge by accident. Pontiac pulled that name straight from the Laugh-In TV show, Here Come the Judge, because in 1969, pop culture and muscle cars were living in the same neighborhood and throwing the same parties. The Judge was loud, bright, and completely unapologetic about both, but strip away the carousel red paint and the billboard graphics, and what you had was the Ram Air 4, one of the most sophisticated naturally aspirated V8S Pontiac ever built. 400 cubic inches, a high revving cam, and round port heads that breathed better than almost anything Detroit was producing. Official rating, 370 horsepower. Actual output? The dyno numbers suggested Pontiac was being modest. 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds. Quarter mile in the mid-13s. For a car you could walk into a dealership and buy, that was genuinely shocking in 1969. The Judge didn't just go fast, it made a statement. And in 1969, sometimes that was the whole point. Number 9, 1964 Ford Thunderbolt 427. Here's a question. What happens when Ford's racing division gets bored and decides to stuff one of the most violent engines ever built into a mid-size family car? You get the Thunderbolt, and you get one of the most dangerous sleepers in American automotive history. Ford took the Fairlane, a perfectly reasonable, perfectly forgettable mid-size sedan, and dropped the 427 high-riser Fiv 8 under the hood. To make it fit, they had to cut the inner fenders. The fiberglass hood had a massive scoop because there was no other option. The interior was stripped bare, the rear seat was gone, the radio was gone, the heater was optional if you wanted to save weight. This was not a road car wearing a drag car costume, it was a drag car wearing a road car costume. And at the strip it was terrifying. 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds when most sports cars needed 6. Only 127 were built. Every single one went straight to a drag strip and most of them won. The Thunderbolt proved that Ford could play this game too. They just preferred to do it quietly. Number 8, 1969 Plymouth Road Runner. Plymouth named this car after a cartoon bird. Let that sit for a second. In 1968, when every muscle car was trying to look expensive and exclusive, Plymouth went the other direction entirely. The Road Runner was cheap, deliberately, almost aggressively cheap. No carpet, no luxury options, no pretense whatsoever. You wanted fast without the fashion show? Here's your car, here's your Hemi, goodbye. That 426 Hemi was something else entirely. Hemispherical combustion chambers, that's where the name came from, gave the engine an efficiency that flathead designs couldn't touch. 425 official horsepower, though every independent tester who put one on a dyno walked away shaking their head at how conservative that number was. 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds in 1969, in a car that cost less than $3,000. Motor Trend named it Car of the Year. The insurance companies quietly started having nightmares, and Plymouth sold over 80,000 of them in the first year alone, proving that in America, the best way to sell speed is to make it affordable. Number 7, 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. You know how sometimes an engineer gets given a problem and comes back with a solution that seems slightly insane? The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona was that solution. The problem was simple. Dodge needed to win at Talladega. The standard Charger, despite everything it had going for it, wasn't slippery enough through the air at 180 miles per hour, so Chrysler's aerodynamics team added a 2-foot nose cone and a rear wing taller than some people. They called it the Daytona. NASCAR called it legal, barely, and competitors called it unfair. The street version came with the same 426 Hemi, producing 425 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. But on the superspeedways, that nose cone and wing transformed the Charger into something that could hit 200 miles per hour on the Talladega banking. Buddy Baker drove one to the first official 200 miles per hour lap in NASCAR history. Only 503 Daytonas were built for public sale. Today, a clean original is one of the most valuable American muscle cars in existence. That wing that people laughed at in 1969, nobody's laughing now. Number 6, 1967 Chevrolet Corvette L71 435. 3 carburetors, 1 engine, 0 apologies. The L71 was what happened when Chevrolet's engineers decided that 1 carburetor was insufficient, 2 was a compromise, and 3 was exactly right. The 427 cubic inch big block with the tri-power setup, 3 2-barrel Holley carburetors sitting in a row, made 435 horsepower and produced a sound that people who heard it in 1969 1967 still haven't forgotten. This was the most powerful engine you could order in a street Corvette in 1967 without getting into truly illegal territory. The L88 existed technically, but Chevy didn't want you to know about it and actively discouraged you from buying it. The L71 was the engine they'd actually sell you with a smile, and it was more than enough to make life interesting. 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds, quarter mile in the low 13 seconds, in a Corvette that still had to navigate rush hour traffic and find a parking spot. The L71 was proof that Chevrolet understood something the competition didn't yet. Real performance doesn't need an asterisk. The 1967 Corvette remains one of the most sought after C2s ever built, and the L71 is a big reason why. Number 5. 1968 Shelby GT 500 KR King of the Road. Carroll Shelby didn't do humility. When Ford gave him the new 428 Cobra Jet engine in 1968, he didn't just put it in the GT 500. He renamed the whole car King of the Road and put it on the door badge like a declaration of war. The 428 Cobra Jet was Ford's dirty secret, officially rated at 335 horsepower to keep the insurance companies from completely losing their minds. The actual output was somewhere north of 400, and in the KR's tune, closer to 450. The NHRA figured it out almost immediately when KRs started destroying everything in the same class at the drag strip. 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds isn't a jaw-dropping number until you remember this was a full-size pony car, not a stripped race special. The KR came with air conditioning, a full interior, a back seat. Today, the GT 500 KR is the most valuable production Shelby Mustang of the 1960s, full stop. When one goes to auction, the room gets very quiet and the numbers get very large. Carroll Shelby always said it was the best Mustang ever built. Hard to argue. Number 4. 1969 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1. Only 69 were built. 69. In a production year where Chevrolet made hundreds of thousands of Camaros, they quietly assembled 69 of these and handed them to people who knew exactly what they were getting into. The ZL1 engine was the most exotic thing Chevrolet had ever put in a production car. All aluminum 427, block, heads, everything. 100 pounds lighter than the iron block version. Built originally to homologate a racing engine for the Can-Am series, then somehow made street legal through the Copo ordering system for buyers who knew the right questions to ask. 500 horsepower. Officially, the aluminum construction meant the ZL1 Camaro weighed less than a base model despite having a bigger engine, which meant the real-world performance was absolutely savage. Quarter miles in the high 11s from the factory. 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds when most cars needed 8. The engine alone cost more than a fully loaded standard Camaro. Some dealers refused to take delivery because they didn't know how to sell something this extreme. The ones that did moved them immediately. A ZL1 Camaro in documented numbers matching condition is worth over $1 million today. That's what 69 units and an aluminum block gets you 50 years later. Number 3. 1969 Chevrolet Corvette L88. Chevrolet didn't want you to buy this car. That's not a figure of speech. They literally tried to discourage you. The L88 option on the 1969 Corvette came with a $1,032 price premium and a list of deleted features that read like a punishment. No radio, no air conditioning, no power steering, no heater. Chevy was hoping the list of missing amenities would filter out anyone who wasn't going to take this engine to a racetrack. The reason they were so protective of it was simple. The L88 produced somewhere between 540 and 580 horsepower. Chevrolet rated it at 430. A fiction so transparent that every automotive journalist who tested one called it out immediately. This was a Le Mans engine that happened to have a street legal VIN number. 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds in 1969. Quarter mile in the high 11s. On tires that by modern standards would be considered marginal at best. Only 216 L88 Corvettes were built across 3 model years. The ones that survived, that weren't destroyed on tracks or drag strips, are among the most valuable American cars ever produced. Every one of them is a piece of 1960s racing history that somehow has license plates. Number 2. 1969 Chevrolet Corvette ZL1. 2 ZL1 Corvettes. That's it, 2. While the Camaro ZL1 got 69 units, Chevrolet somehow managed to sell exactly 2 ZL1 equipped Corvettes in 1969 before the program effectively ended. 2 street-legal Corvettes with the all-aluminum racing engine that Zora Arkus Duntov had been quietly developing for years. The ZL1427 was the L88's angrier, lighter sibling. All-aluminum aluminum construction dropped the nose weight significantly and shifted the balance in ways that made the already capable Corvette chassis behave like something from another dimension. Horsepower estimates from period testing came in at 585, and that might still be conservative. 0 to 60 in the low 4-second range, quarter miles in the 11 seconds. In 1969, in a fiberglass sports car you could theoretically drive to the grocery store. Only 2 were ever built. Both are accounted for. Both are held by serious collectors who understand exactly what they have. The ZDL-1 Corvette is the rarest, most powerful production Corvette of the entire 1960s. A car so extreme that even Chevrolet couldn't figure out what to do with it. Number 1, 1967, Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake. There are fast cars, there are very fast cars, and then there is the 1967 Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake, a category entirely by itself. Carroll Shelby built 2 of them, too. The story goes that Goodyear needed something extreme to test their new Thunderbolt tires, something that would push the limits of what street tires could handle at genuinely dangerous speeds. Shelby took a 427 Cobra, added 2 Paxton superchargers to the V8, and produced 800 horsepower. In 1967, in a car that weighed 2,282 pounds. To put that in perspective, 800 horsepower, 2,282 pounds. That's a power-to-weight ratio that most modern supercars would be embarrassed by. 0 to 60 in around 3.5 seconds. Top speed somewhere north of 165 miles per hour on the tires available in 1967, which is an almost incomprehensible achievement. One of the 2 original Super Snakes sold at auction in 2007 for $5.5 million.